Good evening. Today I will be discussing the effect of vermicompost on the growth of radish microgreens. My name is Wray and I go to Galileo Magnet High School. I plan to attend the University of Mary Washington and study in the STEM field. My personal connection to this topic is that I've composted with my mom growing up and I care about the health of the environment. This study is important for agriculture, waste, and environmental health to find more eco-friendly options for fertilizers and better disposal methods for organic waste. The disposal of large amounts of industrial and agricultural waste has become an environmental concern. Waste is typically disposed of in landfills or by dumping or burning, contributing to greenhouse gases and increasing environmental toxins, polluting the soil and air. Vermicompost has been proposed as a sustainable approach to waste disposal. It significantly reduces the total emissions of greenhouse gases, decreases pollution, and increases soil fertility while reducing the reliance on chemical and mineral fertilizers. These fertilizers are non-renewable and their overuse has caused soil, water, and air pollution. Non-renewable fertilizer sources will eventually deplete, whereas vermicompost has an unending source of organic material. Vermicompost repurposes organic waste, yielding a product with increased nutrients that is more beneficial to plants than inorganic fertilizers. Vermicompost also increases plant growth by making nutrients and water more readily available, decreasing the adverse effects of plant pathogens and pests, and producing hormonal effects on plant growth. Composting is an aerobic thermophilic process, meaning that it is a high-temperature method of breaking down organic waste in the presence of oxygen. Vermicompost combines the aerobic decomposition of compost at a low temperature with earthworms to produce a product with increased nutrients. The vermicomposting process takes longer than composting, but produces a superior product. The amount of time needed for vermicomposting can be reduced by traditional composting followed by vermicomposting. Researchers generally agree that the ideal earthworm for vermicomposting is a Xenia foetida due to their rapid reproduction rate, quick turnover of organic material, and superior production quality. The process of vermicomposting considerably lowers the levels of heavy metals found in organic waste by accumulating in the body of earthworms. The vermicomposting process helps eliminate plant pathogens through the presence of natural antibiotics and bacteria. Reducing plant pathogens is important because they can have negative effects on plant growth and yield. In addition to decreasing plant pathogens, vermicomposting waste helps to reduce pathogens harmful to humans. Earthworms and microorganisms work together symbiotically to decompose organic matter because they increase the more metabolically active microorganism populations and enzymes, which results in a quicker breakdown of organic material. Vermicomposting increases soil aeration and porosity, which helps prevent soil loss and surface water runoff, and improves moisture retention of soil. Besides the macroscopic aeration that earthworms produce by moving through soil, fungi and bacteria in vermicompost further aerate soil on a microscopic level. Vermicomposting organic material neutralizes pH, which allows plants to absorb more nutrients. During the vermicomposting process, earthworms increase nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, while also making them more readily available for plants to absorb. Vermicomposting has been shown to significantly increase plant growth measured by height, leaf size, and number of leaves and flowers. The gap being filled is the effect of vermicompost on the growth of radish microgreens. In previous studies, there has been much research exploring the benefit of compost and vermicompost on different types of plants, but none specifically on the effect of vermicompost on microgreens. This study demonstrates the benefit of vermicompost in the production of microgreens as a food source. It also illustrates another plant type that can be enhanced with a more environmentally friendly fertilizer. My study will answer the question, how does vermicompost affect the growth of radish microgreens? My null hypothesis is, if vermicomposting is used, then there will be no difference in radish microgreen growth as compared to composting without earthworms. My research hypothesis is, if vermicomposting is used, then the radish microgreen growth will be increased as compared to composting without earthworms. I created validated my hypotheses based on the previous research that supported vermicompost's ability to increase plant growth as compared to other soil mediums. The independent variables are vermicompost and compost. The dependent variable is the growth of radish microgreens. The control is potting soil, and the constants include water, light, and temperature. The first step of my study was to gather my materials, which included potting soil, compost, a container for vermicomposting, pots, radish microgreen seeds, a spray bottle, and watering trays. The picture shows the vermicompost bin with holes drilled in the sides to provide airflow. Then I placed the compost and the earthworms in the vermicompost bin. I placed a cover over the earthworms to prevent them from escaping. I mixed 1 part vermicompost with 3 parts potting soil and 1 part compost with 3 parts potting soil. I had 3 groups I was comparing: a compost mixture, a vermicompost mixture, and potting soil. I then labeled the pots and placed the correct soil medium in each one. The picture shows me mixing the different soil media together. I covered the labels and I randomized the pots by using a random number generator. I planted 3 seeds in each pot as seen in the picture. I sprayed each pot with water and placed a cover over the seeds so it could be dark to encourage germination. After germination, I uncovered the plants and removed extra plants, leaving 1 plant per pot as seen in the picture. I installed grow lights above the pots and they were on for 12 hours each day after germination. My population is radish microgreens and my resulting sample size was 36. Here I'm measuring the height of the microgreens in centimeters, which I did every other day. I watered them as needed by adding water to the tray underneath the box. When the plants matured enough to grow leaves, I measured their width in centimeters, as seen in the picture, with a clear ruler so I could press the leaf flat. I also rotated the pots daily under the grow lights to ensure equal light distribution. Lastly, I compiled all data and conducted statistical analysis. While I recorded other data, such as number of leaves and leaf width, my study focused primarily on the height of radish microgreens. The blue dots represent the mean of each group. Compost and vermicompost grew taller plants as compared to potting soil. Vermicompost had a better impact of growth, albeit it was only by 0.09 of a centimeter. The cluster of data points for vermicompost is closer together, which means that vermicompost had more consistent growth. I used a one-way ANOVA test because it compares 2 or more treatments. At the 0.05 level of significance, there is not sufficient evidence to conclude that there is a difference in the growth of radish microgreens when using vermicompost as compared to compost. The purpose of this study was to analyze if vermicompost was a superior soil medium for the growth of radish microgreens as compared to compost and potting soil. This means that under the current study's parameters, the data suggests that vermicompost does not have a significant effect on the growth of radish microgreens as compared to compost. This contradicts a previous study done on geraniums and calendula, which found that vermicompost yielded larger plants as compared to compost. However, this study did show a significant increase in plant growth when using vermicompost as compared to potting soil. This finding agrees with a previous study conducted on radishes, which found increased root and shoot biomass in radish plants when using vermicompost as compared to soil. The real-world implications for this study are that vermicompost and compost are both eco-friendly disposal methods for organic waste. Both of these methods create a natural fertilizer that improves plant growth. A negative finding of the study was that the vermicompost and compost groups were not significantly different. This could be attributed to the type of plant used as well as the vermicomposting process. Radish microgreens grow quickly, but their growth rate slows as they reach their maximum height. Another plant type with different growth parameters would be beneficial to this study. The vermicompost produced was affected by low temperature and moisture levels, which were assessed subjectively. Better temperature control and a more reliable method for measuring moisture should be employed. In this study, the ratio of vermicompost or compost to soil was 1 to 3. However, in other studies, varying ratios of soil mediums were used. The ideal ratio of vermicompost or compost to soil has yet to be determined. Previous studies illustrated different growth rates based on the type of plant Future research is needed to explore the ideal ratio of vermicompost or compost to soil and the effect on a greater variety of plants. This would contribute to how vermicompost and compost could be utilized to improve plant growth. From conducting this experiment, I learned a lot about time management. Things almost always take longer than expected, so I learned to give myself more time on task than before. During the study, I learned that planning is very important. However, you have to be ready to make changes to your plans as the project progresses. For example, I had to change the type of plant I was using to conduct my experiment from crimson clover to radish microgreens due to time constraints. Thank you to my mom for taking photos, and thank you to Ms. Long for helping me develop and carry out my experiment. Are there any questions?
How did you measure? Did you measure the stem or did you pull the leaf up? I was trying to see in your pictures.
Radish microgreens grow towards the soil, like they don't grow straight up. So I did pull them, like stretch them out straight with the ruler so that I could get the full height.
And you said in your research you were looking at other plants. You said geraniums. Were there any other edible plants that you looked at?
Ms. Collins asked if there was any other edible plants that I looked at other than geraniums.
Well, you said geraniums. I was wondering if you looked at another type of edible plant, like something comparable to radishes.
I've looked at tomatoes in
Okay, I missed that.
previous studies.
Your compost, did you and your mother make your compost?
Dr. Jones asked if me and my mother made the compost. I did not make my compost. I had to order it due to time constraints.
I was wondering, the composition of your compost, would that make a difference in plant growth?
Dr. Jones asked if the composition of the compost would make a difference in the plant growth. I think it would. Compost is typically organic waste, like food waste, and there's like green waste and brown waste from outside. Like brown waste would be like dead leaves and paper. I don't know what exactly was in the compost that I purchased,